Between May 2020 and June 2022, IDT implemented an investigative journalism project with support from the International Media Support and FOJO Media Institute. The project entailed the production of investigative stories involving 10 journalists, both male and female. It also entailed the production of a further 10 investigative stories focusing on the March 26 by-elections and elections in Zimbabwe in general. Participating journalists were trained in investigative journalism and the use of multimedia storytelling techniques. They were also trained on how to enhance gender inclusivity in storytelling. IDT talked to both journalists and mentors as part of an assessment of the project.
Welcome, Faith. Many thanks for spending some time to come up with this brief interview. What we're doing is we are doing some throwback reflections on your participation in our project, the investigative project under IMS and FOIO, where you participated as both a trainer and a mentor. So your reflections would be very useful to us. The first thing would be when you look at the grantees, or what's your assessment of them vis-a-vis what you trained them on, and to the mentorship process which you took them through?
Okay, thanks a lot, Tawanda. No, it was a very interesting process. Why I say so is that if you look at Zimbabwe, there hadn't been a lot of investigative stories. And then if you look at the mentees, some of them had never done an investigative piece. So it was quite exciting to see the growth, to see the transformation, even from the training itself, and you can tell when you've done a training that somebody was listening. And then from there, even in terms of when they were submitting their articles, from the first draft, I remember there was one story we went to 8 drafts.
Yes.
But you could see the growth each time. And it's also good when you've got people who are teachable. I think the word teachable is very important.
Yes.
Because sometimes you can get a group which is not teachable, which is arrogant, but the group that we've had has been a really good group. They've been teachable, and I think what makes me smile at the end is when the articles come out. When they read their own articles and then they give you that feedback. It's very heartwarming, and then you see that you've actually done something, and it always feels good to when you've contributed something and seen it grow, and then you see the appreciation.
Yes.
And then when some of our guys are winning awards, hey, those are major achievements.
Miriam
won. She won an award
for a multimedia.
Okay, first of all, I can say I benefited much from the training. I had to learn new things. As you are aware, I'm a reporter for trade, and multimedia is something that I was focusing on. But after that training, I had to realize the importance of using multimedia and telling stories. So for me, it was actually something new, and I had to carry out those assignments with excitement. Yeah, because it helped me, even me, on how to improve my skills on how to gather information. Not necessarily going to someone doing interviews using a notebook and a pen, but on camera, interviewing someone on camera. Yeah, it helped me to quote people accurately and gather as much information as possible. So it's really an important tool and an important skill that I acquired from this project.
I learned the use of multimedia, various multimedia platforms to report, to package stories. I was used more for a long form.
Yes.
Even when I started doing my story, I had only done the long form. But the mentor then he guided me that I'm not supposed to produce a video, graphs, infographics. So my biggest takeaway was the use of various platforms to create videos. The use of graphs, how to do graphs, pie charts. Those were the major takeaways that I got from the training. That in reporting, it's not just about focusing on the long form, but equipping me with multimedia skills. Yes, that will help in reporting. Most people these days, they don't have time, I would say, to read 1,500 words, but it's too long. But you package your story in a 1 minute 30 seconds video. Anyone can just capture everything in that 1 minute 30 seconds if it's well packaged and summarized in a video.
And also, what I also like, even the gender inclusion aspect. As an editor, I find a lot of times, if I look at the Zimbabwean media, there's a tendency of leaving out the female voices. So what I loved about this program was that the insistence that we needed to hear more female voices, because there's always an excuse that there are no women, and I always laugh. I'm like, what do you mean there are no women? You know what I mean? When you've got a lot of women in top positions. So this helps to change. Remember, we're trying to change the mind shift of a lot of journalists so that they also include the female voices. So this forces them, and I can actually see it if I look at the people that have done the program. Now when they're doing the articles, you actually see some female voices. So yeah, so it has had an impact around issues, female gender inclusion.
Okay, so maybe to even as a sustainability issue, maybe to broaden our reader bases, to broaden our audience, there is a very, very big need to be gender sensitive in terms of sourcing, gender sensitive in terms of who is doing what in the newsroom, so that there's no class for women and all. Yeah. Well, it's a process, really. It's something that I've got that blind spot as well, being a man, but it's something that that we should think about all the time when we are working on such projects. That how do we bring in women, how do we bring in youth? In fact, we shouldn't think of them as an afterthought. It should be something that is very natural to say. We have brought in women, we shouldn't even think about it. It should be like, natural. Yeah, I quoted 5 women and 1 man, and it's normal. 3 men and 3 women, and it's normal, without really having to go out. So it's a process. We have a long way to go, but it's something that needs to be done over and over again. It shouldn't be done today and stop and wait for 6 months and say, oh, there's another project. How do we bring in women? It should be ongoing so that it's sustainable and it's always something that's at the back of your mind. It becomes a habit if you do it all over and over again. But if you do it once and stop, again and stop, there's also that break.
Since it was my first ever project to do in consideration of the gender balance issue, I had challenges in including women at first, but through guidance from my mentor, towards the end of the project, it was so important to me to make sure that I include female voices